Happy Halloween again, crafty friends. I'm so excited to get to talk to you today about my piece here that I made that was inspired by Disney's Skeleton Dance short from the Silly Symphonies. And it is one of my favorites to watch during October every year. It's silly and it's fun. And so I have wanted to make a piece for years. And the time finally came, and I knew it was the year because when Tim Holtz and Sizzix released this Mr. Bones die set, I immediately knew, yep, this is the year I want to make a skeleton dance inspired art piece. And so I did. So as you can see, this piece comes with the skeleton. It comes with a large tombstone and a little bit of dirt, which I have on here. But I paired it with a couple of other releases. One new release, which is the Ghost Town 2. You may have the Ghost Town 1, and it has the tree. All right, so sorry about that interruption. So here's the Ghost Town 2 that was just released, and it has some wonderful houses that are on here. It has this great little kind of hillside with some tombstones, a little bit of fencing there, two little bats, these wonderful wispy clouds, and that little crescent moon. And so it just makes for a wonderful pairing with the Ghost Town 1, which you may have, that has the 3 dwellings. And then it has a little tree and kind of some wispy smoke that is coming out of the different little chimneys there. So you can pair them together. They work beautifully together. I didn't do that this time because I felt like I had enough going on here and I really only needed one building. So I have one of the Ghost Town buildings, and you can see it just has kind of a little spire at the top. So it could be a schoolhouse or something like that. I decided to go ahead and make it a church because there is a church in the first one here. And so I used a little cross and attached it to the top of the spire and kind of made my own little church there. So these are just cut out of heavy stock and colored with distress inks and oxides and a little bit of crayon to make them stand out. Now, I really wanted this to stay monotone and just be blacks and grays because the original Skeleton Dance is a black and white short from, oh gosh, I should have looked up even before I made this. I'm not even sure when the original Silly Symphonies was made, but I will actually put this when I edit it later on. I'm going to put the date in here so you will be able to see when the Walt Disney Corporation made the original Skeleton Dance. All right, now I added, you're going to see that I have a lot of other tombstones in here and a little bit of fencing. And that is because, as you know, Tim has brought back some favorite dies from the past in what is being called the Vault series. And so these series, these dies from the Vault have different shapes from lots of releases or lots of die sets, and instead of releasing the entire die set again, they picked a few elements from different sets and made them different sizes and then put them in this wonderful set so that you know, this can also go with some of those sets because you have different sized ghosts than were originally there, or the different sized raven, different size fence, etc. You get the idea, right? So for this one, all I used were the 3 tombstones, and I used the fencing from this Vault series to go with this. Now, I absolutely loved the idea that Emma Williams came up with, Artie Miss, and she took one of the Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous Etcetera tags, the medium. This is a medium tag. And what she did with her tag was that she cut the end off, the corners of one of the ends off. So this originally had a hole for the tag. And then I used another tag to, you know, draw a line on the square ends of my Etcetera tag and made this ticket. And so Emma came up with that idea. I thought it was absolutely wonderful, and I thought it would be perfect for this because you would have had to have a ticket to get in to see the skeleton dance originally. And so I thought a ticket would be perfect. So this is what an Etcetera tag looks like. Exactly what Emma did is that she took the end and she put it on, and then she drew a line and then cut it off. Okay, and so that's exactly what I did as well. And then I used the little bit of the corner and I kind of cut it in a circle and I stuck it in there and filled it in just so that I didn't have a hole on the back. Thanks to Emma for that wonderful idea. It was perfect for this project. Now you're going to see kind of what I used in the background here. It has a little bit of texture on it. So I painted it gray originally, and I painted this black, and then I did a little bit of gray splotching up there in the sky. But then I wanted this to kind of have some sort of texture to it. And woohoo, you know already that Tim Holtz and Ranger came out with the perfect thing for us to have for textures for Halloween this year. And that is the Distress Crypt Grit Paste and the Distress Texture Paste in the Grave color. So the Grave color, as you can see, is kind of a very light gray, almost light pumice stone color. And what I did was I just took my palette knife, dipped it in, and then I just kind of went around and just did this and just kind of smeared it all over so that there would be just that little bit of texture in the background. And I wouldn't have to color it. I just loved that it was that nice gray tone. Then when I cut out all of the little tombstones, I had colored them gray with my Distress inks and cut them out, and then I wanted them to have some texture. And then when I glued them on, I also wanted there to be a little bit of texture that looked maybe like dirt or something that would be at the base of each one, so that there wasn't just a rough edge of paper there. So what I used for that was this amazing Crypt Grit Paste. I just love it. So it has just those little bits of black flecks in it. And it's that wonderful, it turns that kind of a darkish grayish color when it dries. So you really don't have to even color it. It's just wonderful. And so I did the same thing. I used my fingers and I used my palette knife. So to get it on the paper first, I put some on my finger and then I would just kind of pat it and tap it on there before I glued them onto the piece. I just did this on the paper once the little tombstones were all cut. I laid them aside and let them dry overnight. I did the same thing on my the two little pieces of gate or fencing, and then let that dry. And then once I started adding all the pieces to my background, I went ahead and then I used my palette knife and I would just brush a little bit along the bottom so that there wasn't such a rough edge. And I did that all over there, let it dry. And then I finished off by putting my fencing on each corner and then trimming it. All right. For the sky, very simple. All you're doing is cutting some clouds from some gray colored, you know, I used white heavy stock, and then just adhere those onto the piece, add a few bats, add that moon, and then to make it look a little foggy, once everything was dry, I added another bat over here too. I took some pumice stone and some of the white distress crayon, and I just rubbed it in here and there all around. And sometimes you have to get your finger just a little bit damp and continue to rub it in so that it looked a little bit foggy there in the background as well. I did in a few places add a little bit of distress crayon also to the very back of the hilltops and a couple of places here and there on that grave colored texture paste, just to add a little depth and a little dimension. And that was pretty much it. Mr. Bones went together so quickly. There really isn't any technique to tell you except just put him together. And I did flick a little bit of, you'll see there's a little bit of gray ink that I flicked onto them as well. But they are dancing through the graveyard, and you can probably hear the music in your head. So what a fun little short that Disney made, and I am so happy that I finally got to make my own little tribute to Disney's Skeleton Dance with this piece using our Halloween Vault series, Ghost Town 2, and of course our Mr. Bones die set. If you have any questions, please be sure to email me contact me through my blog, and I will be glad to get back to you as soon as possible and answer any questions you might have on this piece. I hope that you like it as much as I do, and that you're inspired to make something of your own. So thanks again, friends. We'll see you next time.